The rain fell in sheets over Amsterdam, blurring the glow of streetlights along the Prinsengracht Canal. Rocky Hamilton gripped the wheel of his sleek black BMW M5, the engine purring as he navigated the narrow cobblestone streets. At 34, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who'd clawed his way up. Sharp jawline, tailored suit, and a law degree from Harvard he'd earned against all odds. Tonight, though, he was just trying to get home after a long day finalizing his new role. District Attorney for the Amsterdam region, a position he'd accepted after years prosecuting cases in the U.S. The city was new to him. Its bikes, its canals, its mix of old-world charm and modern edge. But the stairs weren't. As a black man driving a luxury car, he'd felt them before. Suspicion, resentment, the unspoken assumption he didn't belong. He turned up the jazz on the stereo, letting Coltrane drown out the unease. Then the lights flashed in his rear view, red and blue cutting through the rain. A police van screeched to a stop behind him, and Rocky sighed, pulling over near a row of gabled houses. He kept his hands on the wheel, jaw tight. He knew the drill. 3 officers spilled out, their navy uniforms slick with rain. The leader, mid-40s, stocky, with a buzz cut and a smirk, rapped on the window. "Out of the car," he barked in accented English. His name tag read Visser. Rocky lowered the window an inch. "What's the problem, officer?" "Problem's you," Visser snapped. "Fancy car like this? Where'd you steal it?" "I didn't steal it. It's mine." Rocky kept his voice steady, reaching slowly for his ID. "I'm out!" Visser yanked the door open, dragging Rocky onto the wet pavement. The other 2, Cone, lanky and sneering, and Bram, broad and silent, flanked him, hands on their batons. "Hey!" Rocky stood, hands raised. "I'm not resisting. Check my ID." Visser snatched the wallet, tossing it into a puddle. "Don't need it. We know your type. Drug runner, right? This BMW's evidence." He nodded to Cohen, who grabbed a baton and smashed the driver's side window. Glass shattered, sparkling in the rain. "Stop!" Rocky lunged forward, but Bram shoved him back, pinning him against the car. "You've got no cause for this." "Cause?" Visser laughed, leaning close, his breath sour with coffee. "You're out here, looking like trouble. That's cause enough." He swung his own baton, cracking the windshield. "Maybe we'll take you in, or maybe you'll just disappear." Rocky's pulse raced, but he kept his eyes locked on Visser's. "You're making a mistake." "Yeah?" Cohen jeered, kicking a hubcap loose. "Prove it, tough guy." Before Rocky could respond, headlights swept the scene, a sleek Audi pulling up fast. A woman stepped out, umbrella snapping open, her voice cutting through the storm. "What the hell's going on?" The officers froze. She was tall, late 50s, with steel gray hair and a badge that read, Chief Inspector De Vries. Her eyes narrowed as she took in the wrecked BMW, the officers, and Rocky standing soaked but unbowed. "Ma'am," Visser stammered, straightening, "we stopped a suspect." "Suspect?" De Vries strode forward, snatching Rocky's soggy wallet from the ground. She flipped it open, her face hardening as she read. "Rocky Hamilton, District Attorney, our District Attorney." She turned to Visser, her voice ice. "You just assaulted the man who'll be signing your warrants." The color drained from Visser's face. Cohen dropped his baton, and Bram stepped back, hands trembling. Rocky brushed rain from his suit, meeting De Vries's gaze with a nod. "Get them out of my sight," he said quietly. "We'll deal with this tomorrow." The next morning, the precinct on Marnixstraat buzzed with tension. Visser, Cohen, and Bram, sat in a stark meeting room, uniforms rumpled, faces pale. They'd been suspended pending investigation, their badges confiscated. Across from them sat Rocky, his suit pristine again, and De Vries, her expression unreadable. "You're lucky I don't press charges," Rocky began, his voice calm but edged. "Assault, property damage, racial profiling, enough to bury you. But I've got a better idea." Visser shifted, eyes darting. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm giving you a choice," Rocky said, leaning forward. "Face the courts, fines, jail, ruined careers, or work with me. 6 months, community outreach. You'll ride along with social workers, mentor kids in immigrant neighborhoods, face the people you've been judging. You'll see what I've seen. Then we'll talk about who you really are." Cohen scoffed. "You think we'll play nice with—" "Shut it," De Vries snapped. "He's offering you a lifeline. Take it, or I'll personally ensure you're done." Bram spoke for the first time, his voice low. "Why not just lock us up?" "Because I've been where you put me last night," Rocky said. "Profiled, harassed, underestimated. I could have let it make me bitter. Instead, I'm here. You've got a chance to figure out why you're not." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling in. Visser stared at the table. Cohen fidgeted, and Bram's jaw tightened. "Think it over," Rocky said, standing. "You've got until end of day." Over the next weeks, the officers took the deal, grudgingly at first. Visser rode with a Somali outreach group, his scowl fading as kids peppered him with questions. Cohen tutored teens in a Surinamese community center, his bravado cracking under their sharp wit. Bram worked silently at a shelter, his hands steady as he served meals to families he'd once eyed with suspicion. Rocky watched from a distance, reviewing reports from social workers. He saw shifts, small ones. Visser laughing with the boy over a soccer game. Cohn admitting he'd misjudged a kid's potential. Bram writing a letter to a resident, apologizing for past stops. But he also saw resistance. Visser's muttered complaints, Cohen's eye rolls, Bram's guarded silence. At home, Rocky wrestled with it too. He could have crushed them, sent a message. Instead, he'd gambled on change, a risk born from his own past. His BMW sat in the garage, repaired but scarred, a reminder of that night. 6 months later, they met again in the precinct. The officers looked different, thinner, less certain. Rocky sat across from them, De Vries at his side. "Well," he asked, "what did you learn?" Visser cleared his throat. I got it wrong. About you, about them. Doesn't fix what I did, but I see it now." Cohen shrugged, half smirking. "Some of those kids are smarter than me. Still don't like you. But I get why you're here." Bram met Rocky's gaze. "I'm sorry. For that night. For before. I don't know if I'm different yet. But I'm trying." Rocky nodded, his face unreadable. "That's all I asked. Your records are clean, suspensions lifted. But this isn't over. Racism's not a switch you flip. It's a fight, every day. You slip, I'll know." De Vries stood. Back to work. Prove him right. They filed out, leaving Rocky alone with his thoughts. Outside, the rain had stopped, the canal reflecting a clear sky. He'd given them a path, justice tempered with hope, but change wasn't guaranteed. Racism lingered, in them, in Amsterdam, in the world. Some days he'd see it in a glance, hear it in a whisper. But maybe, just maybe, He'd planted a seed. As he drove home, the BMW humming beneath him, Rocky wondered, would they grow beyond their shadows or sink back into them? He didn't know, and for now, that was okay.